In the past few months I covered games that were enjoyable to play for one reason or another. They were nice games, I liked them and it felt really nice replaying them. Yeah, those were good times. Well, you might be wondering why I'm so weird right now. Well, it's because this is not one of those occasions. Back in my youth, in the days where there were no internet to be had and limited access to games, Chaser came into my life and everything since has become a sad existence. I played it a couple of times and with each playthrough a piece of my soul was detached and lost to the dark abyss. I'll be straight with you. Chaser is something you should avoid buying at any price. You shouldn't even pirate it. If you did play it in the past, you shouldn't even remember it, but now that you're watching this, you've already failed. And I'm not really sorry about that, because this is meant to be an impromptu psychology session for all of us who suffered at the hands of this thing. Let's take a look. I can't even pretend to be cheerful about this. Launched in 2003, Chaser was developed by a small Slovakian studio, Cauldron. So we're in for a lot of junk if the Jew Wood logo didn't clue you in already. Weirdly enough, finding more information about the company isn't as easy as it may seem, but thankfully Giant Bomb can help us with this nifty description. Hold on a minute. Chaser was released to great critical acclaim? How the heck? Okay, alright, calm down, all in due time. Well, at least this list inspires a lot of confidence, eh? Okay, fine, let's stop and focus on the game.
My god, we're finished!
Well, in case being greeted with a whole 6 minutes of cinematics isn't clear enough, Chaser really tries to focus on the story. But because Kojima can pull it off, it doesn't really mean you should also try it. And boy oh boy is the story mediocre here. The general idea is that you play as a man who lost his memory, what a shocker, and must understand what happened to him while half the world is after him. It becomes quickly apparent that the entire plot is more or less Total Recall, but unfortunately in this rebooted version we don't get to see Kate Beckinsale's ass. So all we're left with is, well, not quite bad character models, to be all honest. For all I'm about to say about this game, they did quite a fairly decent job at it. Sure, the cutscenes are a bit too long for what they're worth, but there's been some obvious effort put into them. Well, that's the case until you hear the voice actor for the protagonist.
How do I get inside and how can I orient myself afterwards? You're a funny guy, a real barrel of laughs. What should I do according to you? But what do you mean? The only thing I remember is landing on this barrack and then these pathetic beggars, illegal projects. You bastard!
If this was the actor's way to instill a sense of confusion for the audience, well, he sure did a fine job out of it. I could keep on talking about the story, but it's beyond generic. You have a mob war side plot, a Martian rebellion main plot, and nothing interesting in between. Kinda not enough when you have cinematics that take themselves so seriously. But at least the shooting part is good, right? Honestly, this is not bad either. Sure, some guns have the dumbest spray patterns imaginable, I mean seriously a vertical line, but the overall gunplay is kinda enjoyable to be quite frank. Many of them even sound nice. I mean, just look at how crisp the AK sounds. Gimme some of that. Oh yeah, but that's the main reason the Russian levels are bearable. Oh, don't worry, we'll get to that. Anyway, the only shame is that once the story takes you to Mars, all the guns that you have there sound like crap. You go from these nifty guns that have quite the oomph to them and end up with these lame pea shooters. Overall, it's quite fun to have identical accuracy, regardless if you run or jump all over the place. I must imagine the good old GameSpy servers were hosting quite a lot of balanced multiplayer sessions. The gun models and their animations are also nice to look at. Actually, I'm selling it short, the whole game is nice to look at on a technical level. The game's on the Cloak NT engine, because all the good things in life have NT in their name, made by Cauldron themselves, so the results are not bad if I do so say. The lighting effects in particular are nicely done, and the cube map reflections are quite the eye candy for 2003. I'd wish that looking into the lights doesn't have the same effect as staring right into the sun, but I'd also wish that this was the worst thing about the game. Making an engine from ground up is hard work, so I generally commend Cauldron for pulling it off in this respect. You guys are most likely confused as to why I promised a lot of pain and suffering, but then followed up with saying positive things about the game. Oh boy, how should I put it? Okay, despite the things I said above, playing Chaser is a joyless chore. It sucks the life right out of you and really makes you want to Alt F4 out of it and do anything that is more enjoyable. And by that I mean anything else, because the bar is very, very low. Why am I saying this? Well, the answer is pretty simple. The game has an absolutely atrocious design. Whew. There, I said it. I let it all out and I feel so much better already. Thanks for watching this you want an explanation for what the hell am I talking about? Oh god, I have to do this? Do I really have to? Okay. Well, I don't usually do this, but for this special occasion I'll go level by level, just so you can walk on this dark path by my side. Then you will understand. When you start playing the game, something is gonna become apparent really fast. Okay, besides the blocky aesthetics of the game, that at least I'm willing to forgive, since it was more or less the norm back in the day. But after that, you'll notice that Chaser really loves its hallways. Not only that, but they look close to identical between each other. I hear someone saying, but this level is on a space station, it makes sense for hallways to look the same. To which I can only reply, oh, you sweet summer child. In of itself, copy-pasting sections of the level multiple times isn't horrible. It's lazy, sure, but it's not going to ruin your enjoyment of a game. What will instead is the absolutely sadistic delight of the level designer by making what is effectively a series of mazes for each level. You might be thinking I'm making this up, but oh, it's bad. So bad. And to make matters worse, there's little indication as to where the player should go. You'd think that these keypads are a useful indicator, like, hey look, it's got a yellow light instead of red, it surely must lead me to the right direction. Well, you guessed wrong. For each door that leads you closer to the end of the level, you have at least 3 that open up empty rooms and dead ends. Oh no, it sounds so annoying, but at least I can easily go back to where I need to go, right? Well, you guessed it again, wrong. In order to activate the keypad, you need to get very close to it and then wait for the doors to open up. But if you realize the game tricked you into an empty room, you better pray that you can dash back right before the door closes, because otherwise you have to wait for the door to be completely shut before you can open it again. And if you want to know the worst part, the doors here are actually fast compared to what future levels bring up. After leaving that spaceship and going through a short walk through some slums, you're greeted with another 10-minute cinematic that's only good to warm you up for a stealth mission. Oh, but not just any other stealth mission, it's a stealth mission with instant fail states. You're spotted for a fraction of a second, game over. You've gone too far down a hallway you weren't supposed to go into? You guessed it, game over. You walk slowly behind an NPC who's got his back turned towards you? I mean, game over? At least the spying device thing is interesting and reminds me a bit of the first Splinter Cell, but man, fuck instant fail stealth missions. What follows is a level that shows glimpses of the bigger underlying problems with the overall design. Here you have a really large level with confusing layout that sometimes doesn't make any sense and copy-pastes so much that one starts to really have issues finding his own way. Here the doors aren't even using keycards and helpful lights, they're just regular doors that look absolutely identical regardless if they open or not. Sometimes you're given a bit of help by having enemies put in the path you need to take, but here the game starts doing more and more another really annoying thing. It spawns enemies right behind you. You think you just cleared the room only to have enemies spawning right inside if you were to go your merry way. Oh, and from here on, you start to have ladders everywhere, which are handled so poorly that they can turn into death traps. Not to mention that sometimes you're even forced into fights while on the ladders, but at least the weapon accuracy is the same as when you're on the ground, so there's that. Well, that's just starting with the wrong foot. Surely levels will get better from now on, right? Do I really need to say it? The third level is a sewer level, but at least we get to see this Asian lady with her nice ass and she's dead. Wow, thanks game. Can't really let us enjoy ourselves for more than a minute, huh? After this you go to a Japanese hotel, which at first looks a bit more promising. At least it's prettier to look at, right? Well, that's true until you walk into the n-teenth identically looking hallways, or worse, into sections consisting of vents and confusingly laid out blocky rooms. Okay, I'm a bit mean, because here we see the prettiest looking sections of the whole game. I mean, just look at how nice these places are. Even with the blinding bloom effects, it makes you upset that they so rarely pull things like this off. Oh, now I start to realize where this meanness comes from. What follows is a series of very mediocre levels with equally mediocre things to do. First you gotta defend against waves of incoming enemies, wow, so exciting. And then you have another confusing maze, and at its end you're rewarded with this very engaging sniper section. But you better enjoy the moment, because what follows is oh god, the underwater levels.
This isn't happening.
I don't even care that the music in this level is sort of nice, because now you not only have to deal with the usual mess of a level design, you also have the confusion of rotating 360 degrees in all angles. Who the hell thought this was necessary or nice to play? At least the enemies are not hit scan, but they fall on the other extreme as completely harmless, so killing them is just an unexciting chore. The next level is worth mentioning only for two reasons. First, because this is one of the few opportunities to use this game's bullet time mode when facing this boss, because otherwise it's kinda pointless since guns are hit scan in this game. The second is for... oh dear lord, this is a lot of pent up frustration behind this. I mentioned that this game doesn't do any sort of effort to let you know which way to go, and that locked and open doors look identical. So in this level you have this door that's also locked, but not really. You see, Chaser really loves to fuck with your expectations, so in fact this door isn't locked, but merely blocked by a wooden plank that you must shoot by walking across half the map in order to get a view on it. Now it's not much of a problem, but when I first played it, I spent literally hours running around in circles trying to figure this one out, since this is the only damn time you get to break a wooden plank for anything in this game. Oh, don't worry, this isn't the only design choice that gets flipped on its head arbitrarily. Then you arrive at a Russian submarine base where you're made to do a bunch of busy work with the same old no indication of where you're supposed to go. Garage behind the hangar and storage building just beside the hangar are just absolutely awful indications to have. But at least the next level looks prettier by the virtue of having to walk in some snowy forest instead of the ever-present blocky hallways. Of course, nothing good lasts too long in this game because they come back pretty fast. But do you know how you can make the experience of garbage looking levels with bad design feel better? With a tacked on escort mission, of course. Oh, I said better. Oh, my mistake.
Acting
Yeah, you can also fail it because you didn't wait for the NPC to come with you at the level's end. Just wonderful. And the next levels just show how unintuitive the design can get. Hey look, a vent grill like many others that you've already seen, that you can climb as it's a ladder unlike any other before. Oh, and fuck this section in particular. I genuinely thought this was a bug and I shouldn't be here. How the hell do you fuck this up? Why? Now you finally arrive on Mars and are greeted with a mission survive without any guns and some terrific sound design. You think this level looks pretty? Oh well, it's a shame that the actual combat will be performed into some damp, blocky, dark hallway like usual, but you better enjoy them while they last because the next up is this orange fog infested prison level. Oh god, this level is disgusting to look at. Why do they think it's a good idea? Oh wow, we're walking into this long hallway with nothing but orange bloom around you. Ooh, so exciting. Come on, now on to the final stretches. Because there was too much of a risk of enjoying yourself, the developers thought it's a good idea to introduce the automatic turrets which chew your health and are a chore to destroy. No, it's not fun to hit a bullet sponge that wrecks your shit with hit scan machine guns, who would have thought? And because they had so many good ideas that they were afraid they'd go to waste if they wouldn't put in the game, of course we have a section where you control an exoskeleton. Actually scratch that, you just sit right here at the entrance because if you make the mistake of thinking that you need to hunt down the enemies by moving 10 meters away from the spawn, it's game over. Just wonderful! But now finally, the story takes us to the culmination of all our efforts. Our man Chaser is about to ride the train to assassinate the big bad evil guy who wants to do stuff in Mars, I guess. Evil stuff. It's on now, even the epic music is starting to blast. Time to kick some ass. Where am I supposed to go? Oh, you're supposed to go this way. And now this way. I'm not kidding, it takes 5 minutes of walking into Wasteland to get to this door, and that's not even the end of this pointless stroll. I didn't mention it until now, but there are two big design problems that in this and the last levels go into absolute overdrive. First, that there is no indication that you took falling damage beyond your health going down, and second is that the levels are tailor-made to intentionally waste your time. I didn't mention it prior, but you could easily cut half of the game's length by eliminating the overly redundant trips you have to take. So, it's beyond hilarious that you end up with this section where there's absolutely no way you can avoid falling damage on these damn pipes. Why is this even here? What's the point of it? Why not put an elevator? Why do you need to go down for that matter? Well, don't worry, at least they've been considerate and left you a medkit at the end of this death trap. Yeah, sorry for not finding a better way to design this section. Here, have some healing to make up for it. Absolutely brilliant. And now, 15 minutes into this gorgeous level, we finally get to the train. Yay! Now, we have just as many minutes left to the end of the level, in which we do two things. We ride the train while looking at the blocky shape of the tunnels, and then we climb ladders, walk a couple of hallways and press a button so we can ride the train again. I'm not even joking, during 15 minutes of gameplay you literally don't do anything with the exception of maybe 5. And to make matters worse, the last level is way worse than any other I previously mentioned. It's like they took note of all the horrific design choices that marred the rest of the game and decided to cram them in for la pièce de la résistance. You've got an entire section with tens of turrets waiting for you, you've got all the ladders, both regular and made out of absolutely bullshit props, you've got enemies that spawn all over the place just for the sake of it, you've got broken sections of levels that seem bugged but are actually the correct way to go, and to top it all off, The final section is actually a real maze, almost as if the designer was mocking us and wanted to inflict as much pain as possible. And all this entire shit pile of a segment is by far the longest of the entire game. It took me 2 goddamn hours of pain to get through it. By comparison, most of the levels took at most half an hour, 40 minutes in some instances. Fuck this level. Fuck the entire playthrough, it's so bad to play and I don't even like writing the script right now, and that's how much I dislike Chaser, fuck! Okay, time to calm down just a little bit because there's something I need to address. Despite all its flaws, the game, somehow, has quite the following online. Entire comment section of videos or reviews on Steam or GOG are praising this and complain that criticism of Chaser is too harsh. To a certain extent, I can understand. This is obviously developed with a low budget, with a limited team, and judging by just how absolutely terrible the last level is on a very limited schedule. That's part of the reason why, for example, I'm not talking about how atrocious the AI is, since I put it down more to polish than anything else. But when it comes to the things I do mention, I genuinely believe that most of the game's fans generally don't remember all the bad parts of it. The first part of the game is mediocre but bearable. I was generally worried I remembered it way too harshly during my first couple of hours of play. But then the bad design choices start hitting you one by one and quickly become an absolute pain to go through. So maybe people just remember the first part of the game, maybe? I already mentioned that this game is way too long and I really meant it. I finished it in roughly 10 hours, but as a new player you can easily wander aimlessly for most of the levels and finish the campaign in 15 or more hours. Many of the levels are large and huge, mostly just to tick a box rather than to provide something genuinely interesting. Wow, look at this huge hangar, that's so cool! But then you realize that it's completely empty and the enemies just run around aimlessly trying to hit you from a million miles away. It doesn't help that despite that technically the game still holds up surprisingly well, the art direction is more or less non-existent. Not just the blocky nature of the architecture, but the textures themselves are all sorts of uninteresting and boring. The Russian levels in particular are more depressing than anything Stalker managed to pull off, and those games really tried hard to do it. And the music doesn't save the experience when you're listening to the same tracks on a loop while getting frustrated that you can't find your way, or when you do find it and walk around some long and uninteresting corridors where nothing happened. It's a shame because there's been genuine effort in some aspects of the game. The weapons were nicely modeled, the animations of the character during cutscenes looked laborious to make them work, even if the endgame villain looks like a puppet on crack. I mean, just look at it, fucking hell. It's a shame that the same effort isn't reflected in the overall level design, because this is by far the main reason why plenty of people treat Chaser like a meme, and for good reason from my perspective. I'm 100% serious that I urge anyone to not play this game, it's not worth it. It's not even in the so bad it's good territory, it's just a slog to play through, and the few moments which bring some enjoyment are quickly buried under the ever so many bad parts. So there you have it, my cathartic experience has finally reached its conclusion. I know it's a longer video than what I usually do, and honestly I'd have hoped I'd do this with something which I generally enjoy. But such is life, I guess. Thanks for watching this video. Click all the fancy buttons to like and subscribe because I plan to cover games which are genuinely good in the near future. Until next time, cheers!